Hey there guys, it's Liam here again from KraieGaming, and this is the boss guide to the Madness of Deathwing, the final boss of the Fall of Deathwing Raid Finder raid. Now this is quite a complex fight, and thus the video is quite long, and I will go over what's happening now. So basically there's 4 platforms, one which belongs to Alexstrasza, another which belongs to yor'sahj, another which belongs to Nozdormu, and another which belongs to Kalecgos. Now, each platform's aspect has its own unique ability. Alexstrasza kills blistering tentacles, which I'll get onto a bit later, as well as giving the entire raid plus 20% HP. Nozdormu will slow the elemental meteor by a lot, and I'll move on to that a bit later, and it will increase the raid's haste by 20%. Now yor'sahj will give every raid member a button which you can probably see in the middle of the screen called Dream, which will reduce all damage by 50% for 2.5 seconds, and plus she will give a 20% increase to all healing. And Kalecgos finally causes all attacks to deal 20k arcane damage splash for 6 yards, as well as giving everyone a 20% increase to all magic damage. Now, when the limb on a platform dies, which I'll move on to this in a minute, this arm tentacle, for example, that's one of the limbs. When it dies, the corresponding aspect of that platform ability will disappear. So as you go further through this first phase, you'll have more and more like special abilities and things going. So after we've finished on this tentacle, we'll move on to the next platform, and I'll go over the actual tactics for the fight. So, okay, what I can say now is Deathwing attacks the platform with the most players on. So that's how it works, and you can just jump across platforms like I'll show you now. We jump in the gap, and you'll instantly get teleported across the platform. Okay, then first thing we do when we get to a platform is start nuking the tentacle. But the tank, in this case me, should get ready to pick up the other tentacle which spawned called Mutated Corruption, which will pop up there. Now, what the tank does is must pull the tentacle as quickly as you can and pull him as far away from the raid as you can. While this is happening, all DPS should move to nuke the Mutated Corruption. Now, the tentacle will deal 100k damage in a frontal cone, so that's why the tank shouldn't face the tentacle against the raid. Now what the tentacle does is it casts Impale on the person who is tanking it, which will deal 400k damage to the tank. Now what you should do is use your cooldowns to negate some of this damage, or if yor'sahj's platform is still up, cast Dream, because this will reduce damage by 50%. And as well as dealing the main Impale damage to you, it'll also give you a debuff which will increase the next Impale's damage by 100%. So as soon as you get impaled, the off tank should pull aggro on the Mutated Corruption, and this should be DPS down. Now while this is happening, Deathwing will summon a Elementium Bolt, which will travel to the highlighted area on the ground. Now, if Nozdormu is still up, his ability will slow the meteor by a lot. And when the meteor spawns, what the idea is to nuke the meteor. All DPS, apart from the one tank who is tanking the tentacle, should DPS the meteor and nuke it before it hits the ground. When it hits the ground, it will deal 390k damage to the whole raid, but the further away from the impact you are, the less damage it will cause. And then again, it will deal 390k every 5 seconds while it's on the ground, and the further away you are, the less damage it will cause. So once the meteor's been killed and the tentacle's been killed, we can move back on to the arm tentacle or the wing tentacle, which depends on what platform you're on. So now we've got 2 bosses, 2 people down, 2 aspects down even, which are Alexstrasza No, we haven't. We've still got Alexstrasza up, which will nuke the blistering tentacles, so we don't have to worry about them. But I'll move on to that in a minute on this platform. So here I am going to tank the Mutate Corruption, facing it away from the raid as much as I can. So what was I on? Yeah, at the moment we've got Kalecgos, which will increase raid damage output up, and we've got Alexstrasza up, and this platform is Alexstrasza's, so in a minute we'll lose the nuke on the blistering tentacles. But yeah, the order you should take out the aspects is yor'sahj, then Nosdormu, which means now Nosdormu's down, we have to... the meteor bolt moves really fast. And see, look how fast that bolt runs. Everyone should try and pop cooldowns to try and avoid damage from that, and then nuke the meteor while it's on the ground. So... yeah, and then we move on to the tentacle, kill the tentacle. Once they're both down, we move back on to Deathwing. So, oh yeah, I was talking about the priority. The first thing you should take down is yor'sahj. Second thing is Nosdormu. Third, Alexstrasza. Fourth, Kalecgos. Okay, so we're moving back onto Deathwing, and now he's down to 75%. Every 25% of health he loses, he'll summon these blistering tentacles, which cannot be cleaved and cannot be AoE'd and must be single targeted down. But we don't have to worry about that because Alexstrasza is killing them for us while she's still up. On the next platform we'll have to do that, and you should single target them down as quickly as you can because they deal 15k damage to everyone in the raid, and this stat everyone for every 2 seconds, 15k per 2 seconds on everyone in the raid, and this stacks every 3 seconds and increases by 5%. So the longer they're up, the more damage it will cause. Sorry if I didn't really explain that very well, but yeah. So anyway, now we're on to the final platform, so I can explain the last aspect of Phase 1. I'll explain it when we get there. So Deathwing is now assaulting Kalecgos. The whole raid should target the wing tentacle, and I'm getting ready for the corruption. So we tank the corruption away from the raid to avoid the conal attack on the raid. And now I've got an impale on me, I should pop cooldowns to avoid getting overly damaged by it. And the whole raid should be DPSing the corruption at this point. The off tank is tanking. Well, we're actually kind of failing on aggro, but anyway. The off tank should tank pull off me once I get impaled, so I don't suffer a second impale, which would kill me. It would be certain death, practically. So now Deathwing is summoned his Elementing Bolt, which will fire towards us. So we've got to try and keep away from that, and pop cooldowns to survive it. And all DPS, and one of the tanks, the one that's not tanking the corrupted tentacle thing, should DPS the Elementing Bolt to get it dead, to stop huge raid damage. So once this mutated tentacle and the bolt are dead, which they should be in a minute, we can move on to Deathwing again. So now all that's dead, we move on to Deathwing. Now, Deathwing will also cast Hemorrhage like that. This summons 8 or so of these regenerating bloods, which constantly stack energy, which when the energy reaches 100%, they'll heal 50% of their HP. So when these are summoned, they should immediately be AoE'd down by everyone, and try to kill them as fast as you can. Now, because we've not got Alexstrasza up, everyone has to single target down the tentacles as priority over Deathwing. Another thing you might see there is that Deathwing has casted Cataclysm. This is a 60-second cast, which means if you don't destroy the tentacle, the main tentacle, by the time that 1 minute is up, the raid wipes. And yeah, these tentacles that he keeps spawning, these blistering tentacles, will spawn at every quarter of his HP. So 75% they'll spawn, 50% they'll spawn, and 25% they'll spawn. So now those 4 platforms are down, we move on to phase 2, where we jump back onto yor'sahj's platform and fight Deathwing's head. Now Deathwing's head deals stacking fire damage to the raid, where the lower percentage his health is, the higher the damage it will deal. He'll then summon 8 Elementium fragments, which will cast shrapnel on players, which deals quite a lot of damage. So if you get targeted by shrapnel, pop cooldowns to survive it. As many of these should be DPS down as fast as you can before the next part, which is where the 2 what are they called? 2 Elementium terrors spawn. Now, each one should have a separate tank, so one of them should be tanked by the main tank, one should be tanked by the off tank, and these will cast a stacking debuff on their target called Tetanus, which deals 60k damage on hit, plus 20k damage per second after that. So, cooldown should be used to survive this, and tanks have just got to be kept alive like mad. Just pop all heals, keep them alive. See, I'm dying really fast here, but it's not impossible. And once they're dead, pop all cooldowns you can, all DPS cooldowns, nuke Deathwing. It is possible to kill him before the next set of Elementium fragments come up, but if they do come up, just nuke down the fragments, continue the phase. Actually, to be honest, what you could do probably is just pop defensive cooldowns as well once they spawn, and then just continue nuking Deathwing. But yeah, if the second wave of Elementium fragments pop up, just rinse and repeat. Tank the Elementium terrors when they spawn, and just repeat phase 2 over again, and Deathwing will be destroyed. The destruction of the destroyer. So, and that's the Fall of Deathwing. I'm sorry I didn't explain it too well. It is a complex fight. I've literally got like 2 pages of notes here which I can't read because it involves scrolling and everything while speaking. I'm rather new to this YouTubing business, so I'm not very professional. But anyway, if you've liked this and if this has helped you, we hope it's helped you. And if it has, rate, comment and sub if you deem me worthy. And I'll see you next time.